I stumbled across this post by Nick Hinton, one Nick Hinton. And if you guys know him or don't know him, he's on he's been in the game, sort of the synchromistic game, for a very long time, and really dialed into a lot of things. He's the guy, we've talked about him in the past. He came up with the idea of that 2012 theory, right? Kind of that CERN, 4th of July, 2012, they announced it. We spun off into another timeline, the catastrophic vacuum decay. That was kind of his theory. Made him, sort of internet famous, and this was a long time ago. And he's been at it ever since, okay? And so Nick Hinton, I saw this, let's see, when did he post this? This was a few days back. This was on February 17th. I don't know what the day is today. What is the 18th? Okay, so all of this happened over the course of 24 hours. Okay, but I saw this first, and I'll just read the top part here, and then we'll kind of I don't want to read the entire thing. Do check it out. Go follow him on Twitter. But he said this: most Orthodox Christians believe icons or sacred images can work miracles. However, some Orthodox Christians also believe in the existence of hell icons or cursed images. Hell icons still portray holy figures, but they are deceptively painted on top of hidden pictures of the devil. The art of icon making is called iconography. Appropriately, it is opposite is called helography, which was supposedly a kind of black magic that originated in medieval Russia. Other Russian terms for hell icons translate as hell written and painted in hell. Okay, all right, so that's where we start, and it's one of those ones where I was like, wow, that's a wild idea. I'd never even heard of that. And I've told this story before in terms of my childhood. My grandmother used to have this picture of Jesus in the living room. And for some reason, it wasn't always on the wall. Sometimes it was down low, kind of leaning up against something, which was strange. But I do remember this Jesus picture. I don't know what the term is, but it had those eyes that followed you wherever you were, right? It's kind of that super creepy Jesus is watching type of thing. And look, I mean this in the nicest way. I'm not trying to be blasphemous. I mean, when you're a little kid and, there's all this sort of information flowing through you and you're trying to figure out what the hell the world's about. And then the Jesus picture won't stop staring at you. It is unsettling, let's say. That's probably the best way to put that. But I have told that story before. But in the same sense now, we're kind of talking about the opposite of that, of not just sort of being watched, but also being manipulated by, let's say, a piece of art, intentionally manipulated. And again, as usual, I like to pioneer some ideas, and I'm calling this artistic subversion and psychic gravity. Now, the term itself, psychic gravity, as far as I'm aware, has never been posited. I couldn't find it in a search, and so of course, well, let's come up with new things. And what does it mean in terms of the hell icon? Well, so that was just maybe yesterday when I found this, and I thought it was highly fascinating and definitely worthy of a discussion, right? But then something happened today that I saw and was like, what the hell? That fits exactly with the thing from yesterday. But it didn't dawn on me until late, till like maybe 6 o'clock today, because we're going to do this, which is here. This is from Oddity Central, and again, a hat tip to Coast to Coast. You guys know who they are. Don't need to plug those guys, but they have an article where they were talking about this, and then linked back to the original. Anyway, there's the Coast to Coast article. But back to this. So Oddity Central reports: security guard at art exhibition tries to eat art exhibit while on the job. Right? Now, what? Like, that doesn't make sense, does it? That doesn't make it. Okay, let me read a little bit of this. This is absolutely nuts. A rather bizarre act of vandalism was recently reported at an art exhibition in Moscow, where a security guard damaged an art exhibit and tried to eat it. Yeah, that's right. Last week, the organizers of a contemporary art exhibition at Moscow's VDNKH Permanent Exhibition Center noticed that one of the exhibits was missing its main protagonist. Named Escape of the Goldfish, the art piece featured a goldfish bowl with a goldfish sticking out of it right next to a painting of the open sea, sort of jumping out, from the bowl, jumping into the painting of the open sea, right? With another goldfish stuck to it as if it had jumped from the bowl and into the waves. A thought-provoking concept, and one that has caught the eye of the security guard on duty. Only instead of admiring it from a distance and doing his job, the guy vandalized the very thing he was paid to protect. Now, oddly enough, there's a video of this, and I'm not going to play it. The link's going to be in the description if you want to check it out yourself. I do encourage you to look at this stuff because it is extremely strange. But this guy walks up, the security guy walks up to the exhibit here. He like kind of reaches out and kind of touches the goldfish a little bit that's sticking to the picture frame. And he's like, and then he tries to take it off, like he's trying to pull this thing off, okay? Again, who knows how much this thing's worth? I think they might have an art estimate of this thing, but you know how modern art is basically a tax scam anyway, so, take that as what you will. You paint, duct tape a banana to the wall, it's worth $10 million that you write off on your taxes because you give it to your buddy, right? Yeah, tax scam is what I say. But shout out Axel Steele on that. I think he's totally right. But here's the thing, right? So he reaches out, he touches this goldfish, and then he tries to take it off, and it's stuck. It's affixed to the frame, all right? But then he peels this thing off, and then he kind of sniffs it a little bit, and then he goes and tries to take a bite out of this fake fish from this work of art, okay? When they interviewed the guy and asked him, because of course, they found this thing damaged the next day or whatever, and they're like, what the hell is this? What is going on with this, right? And so here we go. When organizers noticed Escape the Goldfish had been vandalized, they checked the security cameras and were shocked to see the security guard doing the very thing he was paid to prevent. When confronted about his behavior, the man simply shrugged and said that he had had a tough night with very little sleep, and he did not understand what he was doing when he vandalized the art piece. The man has been suspended from his job, and Escape of the Goldfish was restored after a few days. Okay, now, which of course takes us right back to where we started, this idea of these artworks, these art pieces that might have subliminal messaging somehow. And even, going back to sort of the religious iconography and these hell icons, something I'm calling psychic gravity. Now, the goldfish in this, modern art sort of space, yeah, maybe not. I don't know. But I think, as usual, to me, the concept is far more important than the actual sort of seed idea. And so a lot of questions linger with this one, because clearly, if we're talking about, icons of, having holy richness in terms of, people coming into these old churches and being able to see these ancient works of art and these things and be, let's say, enlightened in at least in a moment and inspired, and all the rest of that kind of comes with it. But what if a lot of these spaces and places are actually sort of covered up with this hell icons, and it's all obfuscation to, back to that metaphysical inversion, and instead of inspiring people, we're doing the opposite, inspiring destruction and madness. Anyway, so that's what's on my mind tonight. We're going to get to the rest of this. As you know, we're doing this to include you if you want to be part of the conversation. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. Phone lines are up. Discord is up. We're doing all this. And that's what's up. The hell icon. Now, artistic subversion is what I'm calling it, and psychic gravity, which is a new term. Meaning, of course, can an artist imbue psychic gravity into an ancient piece that resonates to the modern day? Now, the icon part is pretty wild in and of itself. Sort of a like just the basic idea of what an actual icon is. Okay, and let me get the thing here. I got an actual thing. Hold on, let's see. All right, so where is it? Oh my goodness, so much information. Oh, and the website is down, by the way, for me. I locked myself out of it, which is super hilarious. The admin of the website locked himself out, and not because of anything I did. It was something that happened with the actual CMS. Anyway, it is funny. But so I'm using Substack. By the way, did you know that we have a Substack? It's called the Troubled Minds newsletter. And all the write-up today is actually on Substack if you want to check that out. And there's a subscription button there. Link is in the description. It's on the very top if you want to check it out. And this is where a lot of the information is going to go. Once I'm doing this full-time, I'm going to be doing the Substack. A lot of the write-ups will go over there, or even, let's say, shorter, more brief breakdowns for brevity of these shows, so people can kind of go check it out and see what we're talking about in a more brief, general sense. And anyway, just a way to bring eyeballs into the conversations. But do check out the Substack. It is troubledminds.substack.com. And it is not a pay thing. It's just sign up and follow the thing, and you're in, and you can see whatever goes up there. A bunch of the old podcasts are on there because Substack does do, just as a quick aside, if you're confused on what that is, it's basically a blog, but they wanted you to be able to do podcasts through it, and you can do it. Shout out Herschel out there if you're listening. He's got his podcast up on Substack right now. But they wanted me to run everything through it, and I can't do that because it has to go through Spreaker or I don't get paid. So anyway, so there is some old podcast episodes up there. So don't expect the entire podcast. There's some old stuff, but in the new space, it's probably going to be more write-ups like this, like we're used to seeing from the website. So I'll start kind of swapping them over in shorter form here. But anyway, so back to this, away from Substack. This is the deal. It goes like this regarding icons, and this is the let's say the more interesting aspect of all this to me anyway. So Orthodox Christians largely believe icons can possess miraculous powers. Yet a sinister concept exists: hell icons. These deceptive images depict holy figures, but conceal images of the devil, whether that's going to be sort of underneath the they create it and then paint over it, so it's sort of overlaid, or of course they do sort of secret imagery within the the actual holy imagery to kind of give you the evil eye within the image, if you know what I mean. So the practice of creating these cursed icons, known as helography, allegedly originated in medieval Russia. Saint Basil, the Fool for Christ, famously exposed a hell icon by throwing a rock at it, revealing the demonic image beneath. Later scams involved con men selling cursed icons to then replace them for profit. This deceptive practice may still exist today, while certain online sellers rumored to be distributing spiritually dangerous icons created through occult rituals. Now, that's exactly the point here. And the question really is, at the basis of this, is this possible? And how does it transcend into the modern day? Because that's exactly what we do. We look at the old ways, look at the new ways, and then try and combine them. And doesn't that sort of scream very loudly at the meme magic, this type of thing we've been talking about, not just for political purposes, but for, let's say, the persuasion of individuals to act in a particular manner. And some of that might include, let's say, we dodge politics as much as possible on this show for that exact reason, because I think there's a lot of people that are under the sway of something and don't quite understand or realize they are. As they say, Mark Twain, I believe, is the one who said, it's easier to fool somebody than to convince them they've been fooled. And I think this is exactly what we're dealing with, because nobody wants to admit they were had. And I'm here every day eating crow, admitting I was had in a lot of ways. Politically, I was had probably spiritually. I was wrong about probably everything. And it's, again, how I treat myself, how I treat people around me. And, I wasn't a monster, but I wasn't centered and in the space I needed to be. And, it might just be a general maturation process. I'm getting a little old, all the gray hair and all the rest. But also, I think that we're really under these, let's say, as I always call it, control mechanisms that are part of this larger space. And we're stuck in this. And we don't even know sort of what sway we're under, as it were. And that's, again, back to this idea of these hell icons, because I do wonder if some of this meme magic and the let's say, more modern ideas here are exactly that. They're like, value freedom. And, the meme is something to this effect, but it's kind of sketchy, kind of weird, kind of, I don't know, maybe has a hell icon in modern time kind of stacked or baked into it somehow, maybe with imagery or maybe with, ambiguous wording, or who knows? And this is the type of stuff that really kind of layers and layers when you get back onto this. But back to this stuff now, the security guard eating this art exhibit. Again, it is bizarre. Like, you don't just out of boredom, really, you peel the thing off the wall. It's like a plastic fish or something. It's paper mache, or who knows what it's made of. It's an artwork, right? Piece of art. So the bizarre part is that he tried to eat it, or at least take a bite out of it, and then explained afterward that, he had a rough night, and then he was didn't know why he did it. Okay, surely you get a lunch break, and you can eat food, and right. So it did stick out to me as maybe this exact thing we're talking about, which of course brought to us by Nick Hinton over on Twitter. I encourage you to follow him. It's just at Nick Hinton with 2 N's at the end. Nick Hintonn. You can find him at Twitter X. Good stuff. Good follow over there. But so a lot of ways to consider this and look at it, and a lot of ideas, of course, that kind of stack into this. But it does kind of just marry the two ideas, and really kind of looking at the modern day of not just meme magic, but sort of the internet as this let's say manipulation device, which is really what it's become, is what we're kind of dealing with here. And metaphysical inversion, as I like to say these days, and the inversion of ideas is that maybe we're supposed to feel good about cheering the devil on. You know what I mean? And whether you believe in the devil or not, metaphorically, I think is probably the best way to put that, because then you can take it wherever you want. But that's exactly the point here. And I do wonder if there's something at play where people are intentionally manipulating, let's say, not just ancient art, but also intentionally manipulating sort of modern memes and this meme culture to manipulate people in not the best ways. You see what I mean? But you're supposed to feel like it's the best way, but it's not the best way whatsoever. And that's exactly really the point here of the entire thing. So let's see, what do we got? Another thing too, just a couple other wild news stories that popped out all at the same time. Back to the paranormal stuff. Like I said, sometimes you get some paranormal stories that are spaced out weeks, months, something like this. But in the past week or so, we've got this other one. Just a couple things to kind of toss out to make the case here. Dad is stunned. This is from LAD Bible. Links in the description. Dad is stunned after catching ghost arm reaching into child's cot through baby monitor. Whew, that's a little weird, right? And so there's a video there. I encourage you to check it out. As usual, I'm not going to play it because sometimes they take They take you down for copyright if you play these things, especially the ones that are monetized like this. Viral Hog is one of them. We got taken down for 90 days one time for playing like 10 seconds of a Viral Hog video. So just be careful what you play on your YouTube streams, because some of these guys actually really go after you because they've probably purchased this video from this guy and they want exclusive rights to it. And so anyway, they're kind of really watching. So anyway, go to the website and watch it if you want to watch it, but check it out. So a shocked dad beckons he caught the moment a ghost appeared on his son's baby monitor. Yeah, spooky, eh? For sure. The appropriately named William Grave was looking through footage from the baby monitor for his young son, Xander, when he noticed some strange activity at 6:50 a.m. See what you make of the alleged specter in the video below. Watch it yourself. Like I said, not going to play it. After checking the footage filmed on February 5th on his phone, Grave says he spotted a ghostly hand reaching into 9-month-old Xander's cot while he slept. Grave from Sheffield in South Yorkshire said, "This was the first night the baby monitor had been set up, as it was the first time my little one spent night in his room alone. As a parent, you just want to make sure they have a good night's sleep, which is why I check the app in the morning. I noticed there was some activity at 6:50 a.m. and didn't want to go into his room until 8:24, as he didn't wake up until then. In the video, I saw an arm reaching into the cot, and it looked like it was going to pick his dummy up." What's his dummy? I don't know what that is. Sorry, my British terms are a little sketchy. I'm thinking it's a toy, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, so I was looking for a logical explanation in the arm of the cot. I must have annoyed my wife all day, as I kept saying, it must have been you. But she watched the footage, and the arm didn't have her Pandora bracelet, and so we knew it wasn't her. Anyway, it is kind of strange. It's very quick. You see sort of this arm lower into the crib. But anyway, just an example of maybe there's as we always talk about, a quickening happening here in some sense. And maybe these art pieces are not just confined to, the idea of a art gallery or, these religious icons as we're describing here, and maybe these ancient churches. But what if it's a larger quickening of the interwebs, back to the haunted internet theory and this type of stuff? Because, of course, we're starting to see, as they say, emergent technologies. And this is really what's happening in the world around us. And it does make me wonder. It does make me wonder what the hell's really happening. But basically, the premise tonight is, what do you know about this religious iconography and the icons? Do you believe it's actually possible to, let's say, imbue old artwork with not just miraculous powers, but also the opposite, with the not just inspiration of things, but let's say to the detriment of yourself and to the world around you, by hiding some sort of ancient evil imagery, so that when you walk into these holy places where you're supposed to be, again, inspired for reverence and all the rest of this stuff, and being a goodwill and best to yourself and best to the world and best spiritually to God and all the rest of the things. Again, you don't have to believe in God to have this conversation. Everybody relax. But that's the idea here. Is it possible that instead, and let's say just for a thought experiment, that maybe this is quite a bit more widespread than we ever imagined, and maybe some of those old ancient churches with the massive cathedrals and the stained glass and the massive artworks, maybe this type of stuff has been, well, let's say ubiquitous even for a very long time. And it's sort of causing, let's say, a spiritual decay in many ways. And I think you could probably make that case for the modern time anyway. I think there's probably a lot of that happening in that sense. And so, I don't know. I don't know the answers, of course. You know me. I come here as being wrong as all of these ideas. But it does stand out to me when I have, sort of these small synchronicities where you find the one thing and then there's another thing that pops out right after it. And they're really kind of tightly related. And then there's a bunch of paranormal news. There's another story here we'll talk about in a sec. But I mean, that's exactly the point. So basically, what do you think here? We're talking about the hell icon and just iconography and hellography. Is it real? Is this sort of the precursor to meme magic itself? And is any of this possible? That's really what this always comes down to, right? Is any of this stuff possible? Because that's what I want to know. And I hope that's what you want to know, because that's exactly why I'm here. Tonight, we're talking about iconography. We're talking about basically the precursor to meme magic itself. Now, is it possible that all the way back in the days of yore, not only were they creating holy paintings for inspiration and, let's say, to create even miracles in a holy place, but what if they were obfuscating these ideas, let's say, deeper, darker ideas buried beneath the paint, buried beneath, let's say, not just the idea itself, but let's say buried beyond and even, let's say, built into it was sort of these maybe, I don't know, how would you say it, like sacred geometry, like a sort of a profane geometry sort of built into these paintings that are, quite a bit different than you would expect from going into an old cathedral. And I got to tell you what, like I said, and hear me out on this and tell me if you felt the same. When, I didn't grow up in Europe, of course. I've never been there. So you can kind of, pat me on the head and say, oh, you poor child, or whatever you want to do. But basically, anytime I went into any church when I was young, that there was of any extravagance whatsoever, it creeped me out. It just really gave me sort of this unnerving feeling. And I do wonder if it was sort of all that sort of holy imagery, the iconography, the, maybe power imbued into the art itself. And maybe, as a child sort of able to kind of sense some of these things a little bit more, let's say, locked into the ideas, that maybe there was something at play here that was detectable, as they say, that the kids can kind of, sense things that adults can't because their filters haven't sort of closed down to reality yet. They're still in that super hyper learning phase. But did anybody else, let's throw this as a wrinkle into the idea here. Anybody else been into these, let's say, larger style cathedrals? Again, I didn't get a chance to be in any of those like amazing ones back in Europe that have been around for centuries. But if any of you have, or let's say just have massive churches, like let's say the Mormon church in Utah was, I'm sure I've seen pictures, creepy, the main one, right? So, I mean, and again, the Vatican, things like this, it seems like there's a lot of this iconography that is not let's say specifically and directly easily, well, that seems fine. It seems like this is all about the well-being of humanity, right? Because it seems creepy. It seems really creepy. And so let's layer that question in tonight to not kind of crap on religions and stuff. That's not why I'm here. And again, pardon if I'm tiptoeing on the blasphemy parts as we go, but that's not my intention. My intention is to kind of consider if this stuff is real, if these ideas are absolutely possible. And the idea of icons themselves seems to be, let's say even well established. And that to me is an ancient magic that is spooky. Back to the Rohan principle, right? What's more creepy is that ritual magic is real and it's being depicted right in front of our eyes and possibly even used against us. Or this completely fake, and these weirdo elites are sort of trying to embed ritual magic in the art around us. Super creepy stuff. So I don't know. Usual. What do you think about this? There's a lot of ways to look at this. And did you ever have that sort of moment as a young child when they put you in these places, these holy places, quote holy places, and there's something else amiss that your kind of child filters, open filters were picking up as, I don't know, maybe power places or actual, I don't know, the iconography or even helography as part of this. I don't know, wild stuff. So got some ideas as usual, but love to hear your thoughts. What's up, scrumming to work in the beginning, have some thoughts later. Yeah, no sweat. As you can, man. As you know, work is first and all the rest, even for the most powerful night stalker in the known universe. So that's what's up. The hell icon, the artistic subversion of psychic gravity. Now, psychic gravity, like I said, is an idea that I came up with. It's not something, I think psychic, let's say resonance, like temporal psychic resonance is probably a better, more direct way to put that. But me and kind of making up terms and liking the ideas, and maybe even we coin these terms as something that becomes science one day. How amazing would that be if they name, let's say they discover psychic gravity is actually real, and they name it after these shows when science actually starts to discover this type of stuff. Like how sick would that be? So anyway, that's why I kind of like new ideas and new thoughts, and even creating new terms for these things, because who really knows what's real and what's not in a wide, crazy world after all. But yeah, let's see. So what do we got? Lots of ways to consider this, lots of ways to look at it, and of course, love to hear what you think, because this is wild stuff. And notice how I think part of the weird part of this is that I've said this before, but we have sort of the UFO crowd and sort of the religious crowd in the same space. It's very strange to me, like the consciousness crowd, like it all starts with UFOs and then kind of becomes, the I don't know what the Guardians of the Galaxy or whatever. I don't mean the Marvel one, the what is it called? The Nine, that type of thing, right? But it seems strange to me that it all starts one place, at least specifically, whether it's going to be a religious idea, whether it's going to be the belief in UFOs or having an experience. And a lot of it kind of cascades into these more wild and strange ideas, like the UFO topoids we've talked about kind of recently. I don't know. How does it fit, and what do you know about it? That's what's on my mind. So back to this. The security guard at the art exhibition tries to eat this art exhibit while on the job, which I don't know if there's maybe, let's say, another resonant here that I didn't, another sync that I didn't really realize is that one of the ancient depictions and symbols of Jesus himself is the fish. Okay, you guys recognize this as something that's been, I don't know, I'm not a scholar in any capacity. It's a lot of the religious stuff does make me a little uncomfortable, not because I'm like terrified or anything, but just because I don't know enough about it to kind of speak intelligently. So I do dodge it in that regard. But I do know that we have had that sort of, the Jesus fish as part of that, the aspect of, Christianity itself in the early days, Orthodox Christianity. And so I don't know, is it maybe poignant here that this dude's trying to eat a fish off of a weird art display? Like that kind of stuck at me right in this moment. And I do wonder if this is what's happening as part of the, not just say the inspiration, but the blasphemy of that maybe trying to eat the fish off the thing. Maybe there's an echo there. I don't really know. But let's see, what else do we got? Let's go to the thing here, because like I said, I can only do so much. For some reason, I'm always in like fast forward mode when we do these things, and I try and slow myself down, but as you guys can tell, I have a way of talking myself breathless. So going to read a little bit from this until we get a call here, just so we can kind of catch up on some of these ideas that are looped in. But I'd love to hear your thoughts at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. You can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Easy as that. Check this out. So this is straight from Substack. This is the write-up for the show today. And it's pretty good stuff in my opinion. But hey, I'm actually a little biased, if you ask me. But here we go. So the thin veil between art and the supernatural was not simply stretched in recent cases. It was torn wide open. It began with a simple act, a Russian security guard taking a bite out of an artwork in a moment of incomprehensible compulsion. Was it merely the absurdity of the moment, or a hidden power radiating from the piece itself? After all, legends of hell icons persist, holy images tainted with insidious forces painted not by pious iconographers, but those steeped in a twisted faith. That viral incident fueled a storm. Home videos began catching bizarre events. A spectral hand in a child's crib. It's not, by the way, it's not chronologic here. It's kind of in the same, week or 10 days or so. So it wasn't one thing led to another. But, if we're talking about time as a flat circle and it's a human construct, then maybe it's the same moment. Who really knows? But anyway, so with every click, every share, the influence seemed to spread, which this stuff does certainly go viral. Suddenly, icons or the ideas of icons weren't simply holy objects, but potential conduits to places far beyond. And as unease blossomed, another strange element entered the fold. The whispers about an online haven of religious art, fueled not by the devotion, but by a warped cult with roots older than the internet itself, which, was like, 20 years? So it doesn't take a lot to do, an ancient cult in this sense when you're talking about the age of the internet. And I do wonder if some of this, let's say, ritual magic has been adopted. And, like I said, the haunted internet sort of idea, we talked about this quite a long time ago. It was probably maybe the 10th episode we ever did. But I think in a larger sense that, when you look at some of this stuff, the meme magic and some of the things that are the manipulation tactics of the politics and all the rest, it does seem to me like something here is at play. And I do wonder if, maybe there is something to do with the fish. Like I said, that iconography, do you think there's something to that? Kind of back to a religious space? Or do you think this dude was just had a bad night? I mean, look, I'll tell you what, I've had plenty of bad nights in my time. And I don't wake up and try and eat something inedible, especially at work that I'm not supposed to be eating. You know what I mean? Let's take this off the wall. Let's peel this off the wall and try and chew on it. Weird, right? There's a lot of weirdness to this. And it does make me wonder if there's some sort of resonant energy inside of it that kind of, let's say he had a bad night, this security guard, and he had a situation where he was sort of susceptible, sort of that trauma, right? And let's say he didn't sleep at all. He was kind of in this space zone of, really on autopilot, not really having his, let's say, faculties up, his psychic protections, as they would say, sort of being in the moment and, clear about what's around you. And maybe he walked by this thing and it beckoned to him and it called and was like, yo, hey, come take a bite, yo. And he's like, yeah, that sounds good, right? This is the type of stuff that kind of makes you go, wait, so how much are we being manipulated by even, let's say, low-powered things? Let's say this is a low-powered icon, okay? Meaning that, religious blood, sweat, and tears wasn't poured into this centuries ago type of thing. Didn't have time to blossom, let's say, psychically anyway. And again, all conceptual here, relax, I don't really know the answers. But basically, then he walks by it sort of in his let's say, space of, minor trauma, right? Had a bad night, whatever it was not really, didn't have his faculties about him. And then maybe this sort of low powered icon brought out the bizarre. I don't know. Anyway, what do you think about this? A lot of ways to consider these ideas, but it does seem to be very, very paranormal. It does seem to be very, very even religious in terms of, let's say, the fish and the iconography there. But what about the helography and hiding subliminal images in modern art or meme magic?